Yeah. Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Hashem, yeah, out here once again, on the streets of London, man. The same thing, man. We're out prophesying basically the end of this present kingdom. We're prophesying, hey, the coming of our Lord Yahweh Shai, who's a so-called black man according to the scriptures. And how, hey, we're in that time, man, where prophecy's flying off the handle, prophecy's flying off everywhere, and you can see this whole system, this whole enterprise that the Esau's built. This thing's at its tail end, and it's just like you go back, you look at the previous kingdoms, all these other previous kingdoms, they're set allotted times, and just now the allotted time for the current rulership, man, EU and NATO, the beast. That's been around since the Renaissance, that thing's coming to an end. And this is, it's something that the elites, they're trying to stave off. These guys are thinking about bringing in another system. They're basically looking to cement that new world order where they basically have people in a completely enslaved state and they're able to just rule eternally. But that ain't going to come to pass. Because when you deal with a prophecy, our Lord's going to make his return. And he's basically going to put this place on smash. And that's why all them nukes that have been hoarded since going back to from the end of World War II, man. That nuclear weaponry that's been developed, that's going to be utilized, man, and bring about an end to America, man. Which America's a place, you talk about the end of America, people look at you like you got three heads. But it's the same thing. When Rome was around on the scene, no one was looking for Rome to end. But now you got millions of pages of books writing about the end of the Roman Empire, man. Here you go.
Alright, it's the book. This is second entrance 901. It says, He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, when thou seest part the size past, which I have told thee before.
Yeah, measure the time diligently. And it's when you see the signs. Because that's the thing, is that's when we're dealing with prophecy, we're dealing with like signs, signifiers of what the time is. Because you go back, if you look, if you read in second Esdras, it says the time of the end was from back then. Thousands of years ago, it was the time of the end. But now we're at the tail end where, the prophecies are getting ready to be fulfilled. Because why? It's the prophecies were essentially signed to be like, hey, look, this thing's coming it's coming to a head. It said like wars, rumors of wars. This is something you've had over time, but now it's on a scale where it's every corner, man. Even on even in the so-called peaceful suburbs, people are you're seeing that civil unrest, man. And it's basically the culmination of multiple prophecies, man. You're seeing the mark coming, you're seeing World War III, you're seeing civil unrest, you're seeing wars, rumors, all these different things happening. Lets you know, hey, what time is it?
Yeah, second entrance 901 says, He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore,
it's the same time where it's the time for that's what we're leading to. That's where it's going to culminate, because that's what no one in the society is looking for Yahweh Shai's return. These as far as described in the scriptures, these people in the church aren't looking for it. It says the day what have you to do with me? No, paraphrasing it wrong, but it's woe to you that desire the day of the Lord. That's what I was looking. Because why? It's what benefit is there for you in it? Those guys in the church, these guys are looking for a so-called white man to come down. That Cesare Borgia image that was set up. These guys are invested in this place. You got people that think that America is actually the kingdom of heaven. This is the level of confusion and mess that are basically going around. People don't really have an understanding of the truth. That's why when Yahweh Shai makes his return, it's going to come as a thief. Because people aren't expecting. People are expecting one thing, then another thing pops out.
Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee,
Yeah,
even
that's
from the
that.
beginning.
Yeah, it was the prophecies speaking these things from the beginning. And you can go back to Enoch, to throughout the book of Genesis, prophecies all throughout there. And it's from the back to the front of the scriptures. It's prophecies always there. It's consistent, and it's always about what the same things, man. That's why it's like, hey, this is a fit. That's why it's such a rap, man. Because now is that time. Previously, when you had the prophets speaking about it, you go back to the ancient world, go back to thousands of years ago. They'll break things down, but then they wouldn't really understand. The understanding wouldn't be given, man. Things might be explained, and then they don't really getting it. That's why you have the way certain things are worded and observed. It's put in the context of the times, the context of how they understood it. But what now we understand? Now we can put the term, nuclear, ICBM, nuclear weaponry, EU and NATO, all these different terms. Because why now we have the understanding to basically be able to do that. And that's what, why it's what do you call it? The book was sealed, man. You basically need Yahweh Shai supping with you, because otherwise you're not going to get understanding. And that's why you see, because the truth's been coming out from the apostles on down, man. From Abba Bivens, Elder Ariyah, Elder Ramlab, Apostle Tahar, Apostle Ryan Love, Apostle Babar, all on down throughout GMS. It's that same truth's been coming out. All these prophecies are basically been getting pushed down. And it's what? That's why you're seeing other people just popping up, all of a sudden able to understand. Because why? The prophecy's been going out for a while, man. Everyone's kind of coming around to like, oh, they're seeing like, oh, okay, now it's being made evident and clear. People can't, it's like the mark of the beast. It's such a point of contention. Because why? Because now it's evident. It's like, oh, but first of all, you've had people already getting microchips implanted in them. But then now you've got this vaccine getting pushed out as well. And you've basically, it's something that's been spoken about even back when Obeezy was in the White House, and now it's coming to a head, man. You got what's his name, Elon Musk talking about what's it called, the brain chip, man, Neuralink. That's the one. Neuralink. Talking about those implants. You got what do you call it, the cryptocurrency. You had crypto blowing up, man. You had this new thing, crypto art, where you basically it's like artwork where you'll get it'll be utilizing the same method they use for cryptocurrencies. They're what do you call it? They'll basically create artwork where you only get one copy of it, and you had one sell for like 69 million. I think it was one. I don't know if it was the first or it's one of the earlier ones, but it was like that's a big thing that they're now making money off. And people are saying so. It's like now you've got those what's it like digital assets, where you'd have the currency, and now you've got like different asset classes. So they're kind of building more of a structure around it.
And then moving towards from the crypto, we now have the banks came in on things as well. And they're moving away from, they're utilizing the same system, basically being the blockchain, but they want to bring about a digital currency.
Yeah, so, minted by the government, essentially.
So
or by national banks, I guess.
Yeah, so it's centralized basically.
Yeah.
Because who knows? Either way, the crypto can carry on going and thriving and be a high risk investment, and nothing happen and people be still allowed to use it. Or something could happen as to where people, feed more into the digital, centralized, digital currency. Yeah. But ultimately, that's neither here or there. It's more that all roads lead to the chip. It's going in one direction. You're seeing I don't want to completely vanish. Being laid out in order to go to that place. The RFID chip being marked. Carry on. So it says, 2 Esdras 9 and 5. It says, for like as all that is made in the world has a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest.
Yeah, everything that has a beginning has an end. everything has an end, and what the end is manifest. And that's the thing. It's just like with all the previous kingdoms, man. When Babylon was on the scene, when they were ruling, when they were in the seat of power, it was it was said to them what many tekel fasted. Basically, you've been weighed in the balancing, man, and found wanting. So then what? Their kingdom got chopped up and divided and given onto the meats. So that's why everything has a beginning, everything has an end. And that's the thing. All these kingdoms, they were created to have that end. When you go to the beast, you go to the what do you call it, to the statue. What's the end of that statue, man? You have the gold, the silver, the bronze, the iron and clay. Then what afterwards? Says a stone came and crushed the whole thing, and that stone became a mountain. So all that those different kingdoms, the kingdoms of men basically, was what brought to an end. Then afterwards you have the kingdom of heaven. So that's why it's now the whole system being done. Let me get.
Well, I was even going to say, in tune with, because I'm going to read this, but like it's being said in Ezra, so that there's a line of signs, like we read that there's going to be seen earthquakes. When you look back in the time of the last few weeks, you see earthquakes all over the earth, New Zealand, I can't remember the other places,
Japan as well.
Japan, Fukushima. Fukushima got hit about a decade ago.
Yeah, now it's a decade.
Yeah, a decade ago. And they ain't never been the same since, alright? I didn't watch the video, but the video they were talking about is uninhabitable. It's turned into a ghost town. And also, all these signs that are being outlined, they're basically coming to pass now. That's how you know we're in the time of the end. That's what's making it extremely evident. And let me also read this. So this is 2nd Ezra 6 and 7. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born, of him Jacob's hand held first the hill of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right? The hand of man is betwixt the hill and the hand of a question. The point being is that Esau is the end of the world. So I give you, like the brother said, guy with the statue, right? Esau is at the end of that. He's defeated, right? So basically, what does that mean? That means that we're on the way out. And that's the things that people don't really understand. All these things, and that's why it's a time of great confusion, right? Babylon the Great, because no one understands what time. It's like the lost in space. We just woke up one day and they don't know what time it is. But they don't know it's like 2 minutes. Doomsday clock is like 2 minutes away from destruction.
But yeah, that's the spirit. Because what? Esau's the end of the world. And that's as well why Esau's trying to run away from his identity. He's made this whole thing of being European, being white, being, British. All these different identities is essentially trying to run from that name of Esau, or the identity of Edom. Because why? When you go to the scriptures, you get into Esau, Edom, even Esau knows. In the Zone of the Bible dictionary, it says what? Edom was the only nation that was promised no future mercy. Because why? It's that identity, it's tied to that great judgment, man, great destruction. And that's the thing, is what Esau's done as well. Esau's been pushing wickedness from when he jumped on the scene. But it's like he's been emboldened. Why? Because through the process of time, he's basically been able to get down with all manner of madness he's desired. Everything his heart desires, he's been able to fulfill it, and the wickedness has reached a fever pitch. And he's still not been judged. So this guy is proud. But what? Well, that's a part of the scriptures too.
Because that's the same thing going back up to the time of Genesis, where you had a Cain, right? Because Cain was basically slated for judgment. Basically, Cain's judgment got stayed, like the Lord, the Heavenly Father basically said that, look man, you know, I'm going to set a mark upon you. He said, look, if anyone finds me, they're going to kill me. And he said like, the Lord put a mark upon him and said, anyone that touches you, you're going to basically will receive sevenfold the judgment. So what did that do in Cain's mind? That gave him a means to be like, man, I can go forward in what I'm doing because I got protection. Alright? Having that, he didn't, and that shows you his spirit, he didn't seek mercy and say, you know what, let me try and run it back and try and get good favor and grace with Heavenly Father. No, he went forward onto what he was doing. And that's why through his lineage you had not Tubal Cain, but Lamech, I think it was, that basically slayed a man. And they said if it be sevenfold to Cain, then it must be 7 times 70 to me, or 7 times sevenfold for me. But they all got wiped out on the first death. That's when their destruction was slain. They were allowed to run riot. Yeah, do what you're doing. But that day when Noah went up into the ark, that's when they got swept away. Okay? So I just wanted to read this to break it down. It's Malachi 1:1. It says, the burden of the Lord to Israel by Malachi, I have loved you, says the Lord, Yahweh. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yeah, I love Jacob and I hated Esau.
Yeah, that's as deep as it gets. Because the Lord, he's basically desired what? Mercy on Israel, mercy on the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, and then what? No mercy for Esau. Because as far as it goes, when you deal with Israel, they've done enough to basically what's the word I'm looking for? Enough for it to be justified, for them to not receive the promises, for Jake to be done away with. But what the Lord basically set Israel as that vessel of mercy from the jump. That's how they were set up. They were set up in the spirit. And then for Esau, it was the opposite. Esau was a vessel where there was going to be no mercy. Let me just read this quick, because this is the same point. Romans 9:22. What if the Most High, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fit to destruction? So yeah, basically the Lord's enduring through. Because it's just like the same madness now. You go back to Rome, man. Amongst, like, when Rome was in power, hey, it was Jake was praying for Rome to be destroyed, man. They were getting taxed hard. They didn't have no desire to basically stay under Rome. But what the Lord basically put, they even put his first begotten son to death. But then what? The Lord still allowed it to run for a season. Because why? It's for the sake of prophecy. There's a way the Lord set things to go down, and that's what Esau can't mesh with, man. He can't vibe with. His role is set. He ain't gonna have no escape.
Malachi 1. Malachi 1 and 3. And I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste to the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, thus saith the Lord of hosts.
That deadly wound was healed, and they've rebuilt the desolate places where we're deep amongst the desolate places. And that's all over Europe, the whole of America as well. You go to America, that shit's one of the newest countries, man. They've built out into a den of iniquity, man. But what? It's just because you built back up, does that then mean the Lord's with you?
Verse 4, read again. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places, thus saith the Lord of hosts. They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall possess the border of wickedness, the people against whom the Lord hath indignation. nation forever.
Yeah. So the Lord said, "What you're going to build up, but He's going to throw down. The Lord's going to throw it down." And that's what we're waiting on. That's why we're basically fulfilling our duty. We're essentially, being them servants, man, soldiers of Yahushua, doing His work. We're out here prophesying the downfall, man, until such as it can no longer be done. And that's a sign of the times as well. The fact the prophets have been out on the streets, basically chanting down the end of Babylon. That's yet another sign. Because it's the same thing. It says what when the word goes out, it's going to go out into the four corners. Then the end shall come. That's also a prophecy. And the word through the power of the internet, you've had it. That's what the word's gone out, man. You can be in China, you can be in Australia, you can be in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and the word can reach you. That's how hard the word's gone out. So it's really a wrap for this place, because it's that time.
And you can tell, like we read, dealing about measuring the time diligently. You can tell by the fact that even now it's moving, with the internet, everything's moving towards censorship. That's why you got an onset of cancel culture. Cancel culture is really a guide to make everyone fall in line, basically, and have one narrative that's pushed out in unison, so that anything that don't conform to that narrative that they want to filter to the people, you basically get cancelled, right? But that's an acceptable way, a digestible, a palatable way for them to censor the really is a shot in the dark of the word. But the word is totally not in line with the culture that they're trying to pump out and proliferate to the people on this earth, man. That's why that recently you got the whole thing with this Sarah Everard. Everyone feeding into that on the internet. And it's making it as to where, if you speak out against that, you're not wanting to hear, you're basically going against, you're bucking the trend. And then laws tend to be put in place and people get outed and lose their jobs, and then what does that do in turn? Even though people may not actually there may not be a law in place, hopefully a policy, but guess what? It makes people fall in line. They say, like, if I open my mouth and speak, then these people are gonna come rally together and call up my employers and say that this is what I'm saying on the internet, and then the employees, the company's gonna have to get rid of me, just off the strength of their business getting caught up with the whole debacle that's going on. Job 9:24, it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof, if not wherein who is it?
Yeah, the earth's been given into Esau's hand. And that's the thing as well. It says, let favor be shown to the wicked, yet will they not learn righteousness. Esau's had the scriptures, Esau's had the Holy Land, Esau's had the rule, man. He's had every opportunity to do good to, onto the people of Israel. Even onto the world in general, man. What's he done with it, man? Nothing but madness and wickedness, man. All kinds of, it's during, the last year, since like the lockdown came in, they said like the top 1% increased in wealth by like over $1 billion. But then people on the bottom, they're even more destroyed. Everything's out of course. There's when you do the scriptures, in the scriptures it's like even if you're counted among the poor, it's like in Israel where they've followed the laws. Even if you be poor, you won't be starving. Why? Because like there's laws in place. Like among the hearts, you need 10%. There's all kinds of laws in place, basically to mitigate against people that are down and out from being completely free. You could basically become a servant unto another Hebrew, and then build it over the course of 7 years. You can build up your own wealth. There's laws put in place, basically for a man to be able to build himself up and look after himself. But this place is a mess. They ain't the whole what they call it, social programs. That goes back to the scriptures. But then what? Esau doesn't deal with it justly, man. Esau deals with it unjustly. Esau's utilized social programs, for example, to destroy the black household, man. He had it where it was black women were incentivized to kick men out of the home. Why? Monetary incentives. These things are documented by Esau. But that's why what this whole system, everything's corrupt. It's all a mess, man. Even with the brother mentioned about cancel culture and all that. This society has promoted what from the '60s, women's lib, all those feminism, that whole ideology. That's an ideology wherein there's no what's the word? Not even no pleasure. Wherein there's no advantage to it, man. There's nothing to be gained. It's basic. It's going to result in destruction, man. Because destroy the household, you destroy basically the bedrock of a society. That family unit, that house, the household, that's the bedrock of a society, of a nation. So it's with that, if you destroy that, then it's a mess, and it's showing through.
What's the one that you say about the basis?
Daniel?
Daniel 4 and 17, it reads, it says, this matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men and giveth it to whosoever he will, and setting up over it the basis of men.
Yeah, so as far as the rulership seat, because that's the thing as well, is in the modern age, people kind of pretend like the rulership seat is not a thing. But anyone who pays any attention to geopolitics knows that from World War II, it's really been America in that rulership seat, that so-called policing the earth. American imperialism, they call it. Essentially, it's been America that's had, the rule over the people. So and when you deal with, even going back to the Renaissance, it was the so-called white people that were set up in that rulership seat, man. Esau, Edom, they were the ones who were given that rule, and it's what they're among the bases of men. You go to was it Job 30? It says I would not have the same to set them by the dogs, man. Because why these guys? And then there's news stories of bestiality that goes down, man. Because why? Oh what?
No, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, set up. Whoa. Okay, yeah, no.
This is the book of Romans 13 and 1. So it reads, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of the Most High. The powers that we are ordained of the Most High.
Yeah, the powers are ordained. Because that's why you go to Acts 5? Yeah, Acts 5. What was it, Acts 7? No, I think it's Acts 5. Where it's not is it the Melion?
Really, Acts 5.
Yeah, the Melion Acts 5, where it says okay, yeah, yeah. The way it's plain. Basically, this place has been given license, man. This place it's been set up. The Lord's presence is with, the kingdom of Babylon being in rule. Why? It's in prophecy, man. Prophecy needs to be fulfilled. The Lord's word can't go out void. It needs to fulfill everything it's basically set up to do.
Okay, this is Acts 5 and 34. It reads, then stood there up one of the council
No.
Then stood there one up of the council, a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, had in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space, and said unto them, Ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what ye intend to do as touching these men. For before these days rose up Theudas, Judas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain.
Yeah, I think in Josephus, apparently it was a sorcerer. I think it's the same one. But he was basically looking to take down Rome, but the Lord had Rome set up, and that's why. So it's the same. It's the pure energy of
Rebellion does sin.
yeah, rebellion and sin and witchcraft. Because even if you're basically trying to come against the kingdom the Lord's got set up, then it's not going to work. That's why if we were to try to take carnal means, to bring an end to this kingdom, then it's not it's not going to work out. We're basically waiting. It says what? Wait ye upon me till I rise up to pray. So we're waiting upon Yahweh Hashem Yahushua to basically bring about the fulfillment of His word.
So reading on, it says, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who were slain, and all, as many as obeyed them, were scattered and flew to Rome. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the tax, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed.
Yeah, because even it's the reason why Jake gets put in these scenarios as well is because wickedness is abounding, man. And you can see from how the wicked scribes and Pharisees, how they operated when Yahweh Shai was on the scene. These guys knew who Yahweh Shai was, and they were still being rebellious as all hell, man. They were going the fuck off. It's no marvel why the Lord basically had judgments coming against them.
Verse 39. Actually, verse 37. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many obeyed him, were dispersed. And now I say unto you, refrain from these men, and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of the Most High, ye cannot